Welcome to the Freedom CEO podcast. It's about becoming the chief decision maker over your life in order to step into a life of freedom. From business, health, wealth, charity, and giving back to just doing life on your own terms. I am your host, Shay Imbidiata. I am an award-winning activist, change maker, and a multi-facet impact entrepreneur with over a decade of experience in business, philanthropy, and health and wellness. In this space, I'm going to be bringing you insights, not just from me, but from incredible thought leaders around the globe to help you start making decisions towards living a life of freedom so you can live a life you love. Are you ready, guys? Because we are going all in. If you love success, then you're going to get so much value out of today's show. I sat down with best-selling author, decorated performance coach, speaker, and president and chief strategy officer of Success Enterprises, Jairek Robbins. At 23 years old, Jairek was awarded the Congressional Award from the United States Congress. He has conducted trainings for Harvard University, the United States Marines and Air Force, BMW, eXp Realty, and Major League Baseball teams, just to name a few. Buckle up, you're going to want to take notes for this one as Jairek unlocks secrets for maximizing performance and success in your life and in your business. He is dedicated to helping people like you and me achieve success by living with purpose in our lives. Jairek, welcome to the Freedom CEO podcast. I am so excited to have you here today.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Yes. So it's pretty obvious because when you look at your bio, you look at your experience of what you've done, your more recently new appointed position as president of Success Magazine. This word success is really big in your life. That you have this passion and this desire to bring people to achieving this. So I wanted to start there kind of off of the top because many people in life try to achieve success for themselves. And there are fewer people in life that build their own life to create success for other people. And I'm going to unpack that just a little bit for you from my perspective. I feel that success, and it's not a bad thing, but success is more of a self-focused achievement where it really has to do with yourself. And there's nothing wrong with that. Whereas when you're focused on significance and creating a life of significance, it actually puts that focus of success on the person that's in front of you. And when I look at your life and what your passion is, and really what your dedication is around success, I would say that you're a person that is building your own life of significance because you become such a pivotal person for that person that's in front of you. Because when you help them create that success, that has a lasting effect for life, right? It's this like ripple effect that transcends you in that moment. So I want to ask you, like, where does this drive for you come from to wanting to help other people achieve success?
Sure. So there's a few parts of this to start with. One, the success is more about the individual to an extent. It can be, for a mother to be successful is generally taking care of the one she loves. For a community leader to be successful is generally providing and caring for the community. For a doctor to be successful, they're generally saving someone's life. But again, it's that personal fulfillment. It's the reason they got into it, the needs they're trying to fill in their own void or their own life. There was a great book written called Finding Your Second Mountain. And it said the first mountain of success you climb is all about what you can get from life. And so we look up and we look out and we see this giant peak somewhere in the distance and we think, ooh, that looks interesting. That's exciting. I'm going to go find out what that's about. And so we go on a hike. We try to climb this mountain. Some of us are stubborn. We want to do it on our own, which I don't know about you, but I'd never try to climb Mount Everest on my own. I think it's kind of a dumb idea. Some people are like, no, I'm going to figure it out. Leave me alone. And
Yeah.
they figure out they want to hand stitch their shoes and hiking boots. They want to come up with their own personal design for a tent. And I'm like, man, trial and error is going to be a rough way to try to get up Mount Everest. But some
Totally.
people decide to do it that way, their own unique path. We call these the trailblazers. And truthfully, every now and then they come up with something that's never been done before.
Mm.
Where you see someone, saying, oh no, there's a giant ice chasm. Like there's no way we could possibly get across it. Some smart person walked up with a ladder, tossed that down, and was like, why don't we just walk across the ladder? And that forever changed how far up the mountain we could all go. And so there's these innovative, creative people who just try crazy things, and it lands up working and gives us more access to the journey than we've ever had before. That happens nowadays through technology and innovation and artificial intelligence. These are going to crack open new paths that we've never even imagined possible until this point in history. But what's interesting is no matter how many times you get to the peak of the mountain, when it's about what you can get from life, you start to realize it's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've ever hiked a mountain, if you've ever gotten to the peak, feels good. It's exciting. You get there, everyone's proud, everyone feels good. You sit down, you take pictures, you celebrate. But you don't usually stay there for like weeks or months at a time. It's momentary. Like you stay there for some period of time, usually a few minutes or maybe a whole hour if you really want to soak it in. And then you realize there's only three things there. There's the feeling of accomplishment, thin air, a nice view, and then a walk back down. Like
Right.
that's what exists at the end of every accomplishment, no matter what it is. And so at some point, either you kind of get bored because you get to the fifth, the 10th, the 20th peak, and you're standing there thinking, okay, I know it's more than last time. I know it's a higher peak. I know I did it faster. I know like at some point you think, is this all there is? Like,
Right.
oh, it's the same thing as the last one.
Mm-hmm.
More zeros or faster or quicker or whatever the thing is you're trying to do, but it's the same thing. At some point, one or two things happens. Either you get bored and you crave for something more in life, something that will really truly fill the void, not a momentary fill of the void, but a lasting fill of that void where you feel that true fulfillment deep down inside.
Right.
And either that craving or something happens in life that just straight up kicks you off the mountain. The death of a loved one, a near-death experience yourself, the loss of someone or something that's important to you. Something happens that just whacks you off that mountain and takes you straight off the side of what you were doing, and it like shakes you to your core, meaning you cannot look at life the same way again. It normally, as the author says, knocks you into this place called the valley of despair, a stage and moment of life where you question everything. Why did I do this? What was the purpose? Is this what life is all about? Is this all I was made to do? Is this it?
Right.
I feel like there's something more. Like there's this calling, this deep internal just chaos that stirs up. And this is called the valley of despair. I know it's a motivational moment, but it's one of those things where it's like you dig in and that moment, if you stick with it. Some people get freaked out and run away and use distractions. They television themselves, social media themselves, eat themselves, travel themselves. They run from it.
Right.
But at some point, you got to stand in it. And you just got to learn how to breathe through it and dance through it and sleep through it and move through it and groove through it and find your peace in it. And then there'll be an illuminating opportunity. There'll be kind of like that light bulb that goes off above your head and you think, ooh, I think I see something that's worth going after. And that becomes this thing called a second mountain. And your second mountain is about what you can give to life. And that's a whole different experience. You
Absolutely.
realize that even though you might be climbing the exact same mountain you went up before, you realize the magic of what makes getting to the peak isn't getting to the peak. What makes the peak magical is when you look to your right and left and you see the faces of the human beings you brought with you. You watch them discover the peak of the mountain for the very first time in their life, and all of a sudden you find more joy than you've ever experienced. It's cool getting to the top yourself, but it's a life-changing experience helping someone else reach their peak for the first time.
Wow.
And so
It's
that's where that magic
magical.
comes from.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's such a powerful analogy and could not be more accurate, And I mean, you hear oftentimes, like even myself, and I know you do a lot of philanthropy work too. And the first time you go out to do any of that work, whether it's feeding the homeless or going overseas to maybe do building houses or working in orphanages, the first time you go, you have this mindset or this thought that you're going to go over there and you're going to help them, and yet what you realize is as you go over there, there's this exchange that takes place that it actually also helps you.
Sure.
And, that's part of when you get up to that peak where you're helping other people get up there, but you got to experience that joy of seeing the achievement that they did. And in turn, it gives you something back as well.
And it's more than just charity. It's more
Sure.
than charity. I mean,
Absolutely.
becoming a millionaire is a fun thing. Help someone else become a millionaire who didn't think it was possible for people like them.
Right.
Losing
Absolutely.
50 pounds is cool. Help someone else lose the weight that always struggled and never could figure it out.
Definitely.
Becoming a great parent is hard work. Help someone who's a shitty parent figure out how to become a better one, and watch what happens when their kids come and thank you for the work you do with their mom or dad.
Right. No, I love it. And this for me is this is where I get significance from. And John C. Maxwell, who is arguably one of the greatest leaders in our world that teaches on leadership, he speaks a lot about this in go after a life of significance rather than success, because that significance that you put into the world by helping other people become successful, whether that's, like you just said, becoming a better parent, helping them lose that weight, bringing them to the top of the mountain. It has this ripple effect that then they experience that. And usually people want to then go do that for somebody else, and this is where we actually change society. We change our world by focusing on that significance.
There's 3 steps in that that's really important. Learn, live, give. Learn, live, give.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to figure out what it is you want in life, and don't let people shame you, blame you, or tell you that what you want isn't the right thing. I mean, I don't care if you want a car, an airplane, a giant house, a bunch of money, just to look good, feel good, be good, dance good. I don't care what you're up to, a better writer, a better photographer. Like, you choose the thing you're interested in. And at one point in my life, I went and lived in a village in Africa. I took a lap around the world. I got malaria twice, was told I had 6 days left to live. I came back and I was pissed because people weren't helping more people. They were so self-absorbed. They were so about themselves. They were so obsessed with their own personal success. I was mad about this. And I wanted to try to force people to make this decision to make life about more than just themselves. And I realized that's the equivalent of trying to drive or drag a donkey up a hill that doesn't want to go.
Sure.
I mean, you can do it. It's just a giant pain in the butt, if you know what I mean. I mean, trying to convince someone that what's important to them isn't important and they need to think better and bigger. Like, John Maxwell does a great job of inspiring lots of people to this, but in the grand scheme of things, there's 8 billion humans. And at some point in this journey, many people are going to be obsessed or consumed or locked on to the thing they think is really going to make them happy, or they're going to make them feel alive. And so instead of trying to force people to see it my way, what I learned was, why don't I just get behind them and help figure out whatever it is they're trying to do, and I'll figure out how to speed up their journey.
Mm-hmm.
I'll figure out how to get them that car faster. I'll figure out how to get them the money quicker. I'll figure out how to help them become that better photographer instantly. If I can identify success strategies, certain things that work across the board, no matter what career, what path, what passion, what journey, what focus you have, there's certain patterns of success. There's certain strategies you use that when you do it, you'll see the results much quicker. And so my thought in the analogy, I would get behind them, be like, let's go. And we would start pushing them up the hill and be like, let's just get there faster. And then when you're standing at the peak of the mountain and I'm smiling, waiting, I'll wait for you to have your epiphany. I'll tell you the truth. Some
Mhm.
people never have it. I've
Yep.
met people who are 80 years old or 90 years old and still obsessed about themselves. They aren't very happy. They aren't very healthy mentally, emotionally, and physically, but they're obsessed about themselves. And then you meet people nowadays in their 20s or teens who are obsessed about serving others.
Mhm.
And so it's not an age thing, it's an evolution of thought and emotion thing. Um, and the key is, though, if you get behind them and you say, hey, you tell me what you want, we're going to go get that first. But once we get it, I need you to take a big old breath of fresh air, thin air, nice view, and walk back down. I need you to look around and I need you to decide if there's something more that calls to you,
Mhm.
someone you want to help,
Mhm.
something, a cause you really believe in, something beyond yourself. And the work that needs to be done, three things. They need to learn what it takes. You got to get the education, the steps, the strategies, the tools that work. You got to then live it. This is the part everyone wants to skip, where you have to apply it to your own life. You have to fail forward. You have to do the work. You have to
Yes.
continually suck at something long enough till you become great at it. I
Yep.
remember I learned a new tool for my wife's and I's intimate relationship. I was like, okay, I'm so excited to use my tool. And we got home and we got into our first argument, but after this is first argument after learning the tool. So I was like, oh, I get to use my tool. So I remember I was so proud, and I did step one and step two, and I was, moving to step four. And right between step 2 and 3, she stopped me and she's like, please don't. We can't do this. You sound like a robot. I literally, like, I can't do it like this.
Yeah.
And I looked at her and I reached out and I held her hand and I said, I know I suck at this. I'm horrible. It's my first time trying.
Mhm.
But would you give me permission to be horrible long enough so that someday I could be great at this for us?
I love that. I
And
love
she
that.
went, aw, that's so sweet. And
Yep.
I was like, I'm not trying to be sweet or romantic. I'm just being accurate. I'm
Yeah.
going to be horrible at this for some period of time, but I'm going to be stubborn with it long enough until I get great at it. And
Yeah.
if you let me get great at this, the science, 3,000 couples, 30 years of research, like, the science says it works.
Mhm.
It's just allowing yourself to practice it and be horrible at it long enough that eventually you figure out how to be great.
Yeah.
And that's the key. And that's live it. So that's learning what it takes. We went to a class, we took a course, we read a book, we got the strategy for success in our relationship. It's living it, it's practicing, it's knowing you're going to be
Mhm.
horrible for some period of time, but being stubborn enough that you stick with it until you finally really get it. And once you've gotten the real tangible result, like, we've done this ourselves. I went and learned business tools. In 3 years, we grew our business by 142%. We made more profit a month than we used to make in a year.
Wow.
We went and learned 15 years. My wife and I have been studying relationships, 5 years before I met her, 10 years together, 8 years married. We've been studying, practicing all these tools. Health and fitness, same story. Been studying it,
Yeah.
practicing it, and fine tuning it over time. And I was horrible in the beginning. But
Sure.
over all these years, I finally figured out the little adjustments that really make it work. And then here's the next step: learn, live. Third one is give.
Hmm.
Find some people, usually for free in the beginning, and you say, hey, can I share with you what works? And truthfully, if you live out loud, meaning you truly, truly eat, sleep, breathe, think, move, live what it is that you really believe in, the tools that you've learned, you won't have to ask anybody. They'll ask you. They'll send you a
Absolutely.
message and say, hey, I've noticed that you two are doing really well. We're
Mhm.
kind of struggling. I remember when you used to struggle. Is there anything you did that helped? Because y'all seem to be better now. And
Yeah.
I'll go, oh, yeah, sure. It's this and this. And they're like, oh my God, thank you so much. Or, hey, I noticed you had a physical transformation, or your skin looks great, or damn, like, where'd you get all the new cars and houses and stuff? That's pretty unique. Like, they'll see it and they'll
Sure.
say, can I have a piece? Is there something what are you doing? They'll
Yeah.
normally ask, and it comes to step 3, which is give it. It's where you share what works. And what's interesting is we read books by Napoleon Hill and Og Mandino. All people have been part of this success magazine and success journey of the company. And those are tried and true principles of the past. There's certain things that would make sense when you had a horse and cart buggy compared to having a steam engine, compared to having a Tesla that drives itself. Like there's certain things you do at certain times in history where there's updated versions. You need to get the like web
Mhm.
3 version of success to make sure you're
Yeah.
not applying the early 19th century version of success. You got to have the right tools at the right time in history. Otherwise, using the old steam locomotive might not be the smartest mode of transportation to try to cross the country these days. It could get you there. It's just not the smoothest and or the most efficient use of time. So there's
Absolutely.
new updated versions, and you have to be sharing with others what's working now. Not
Yeah.
what worked back then, but what works now is the key in that learn it, live it, give it. The other piece, when people really activate into that life of significance you're talking about, it's when they're able to look in the mirror and say, I am enough, I have
Mhm.
enough, I'm loved enough. Until those buckets are full, they will forever, whether they're conscious or unconscious about it, they might not even be aware they're doing it, but some part of them is trying to feel like I am enough as a human. Not what I do, not what I accomplish, just me. Waking up, breathing, being in the present moment is enough, more than enough. Two, I'm loved enough, not by how I decorate myself and
Yeah.
position myself and present myself to the world like me, raw,
Yeah.
unfiltered. Me, I am enough. And I'm loved enough for just who I am. I heard a quote that says, I don't know if you're beautiful or not until after we have a conversation.
Mm. That's
Like,
so good.
there you go. There you
So
go.
good.
I'm loved enough. Who
Yeah.
I am on the inside is seen, appreciated, and deeply understood, first by myself and then by the ones around me. And the
Yeah.
third part is I have enough. I heard another quote that says, when you can feel abundant with very little, you become truly free.
Amen. Yes.
And it said that doesn't mean don't have all the stuff.
Yeah.
I've done it. Had the cool cars. I remember when I bought the fancy sports car and rode on the private jets and done all this stuff. Now, this part, no matter how many people I tell it to, everyone still says, I'd rather find out myself.
Totally.
But I can tell you
Understandably.
from experience, it doesn't do anything different. It's nice,
Yeah.
but it doesn't change your life at all in any way, shape, or form. It feels good for a period of time. Then all it is a thin air, nice view, and a walk back down. Is it worth trying? Go for it. If that's what you really want in life, go get it. And be smart about it. We can show you how to do that so that your money makes you money and your money makes you enough money so you don't have to think about money anymore. That's not hard. It just takes time, consistency, and effort, a little bit of discipline.
Totally.
Um, but those thoughts, I am enough, I have enough, I'm loved enough.
Mhm.
As soon as a human being is able to truly keep those buckets full, it's a practice, just like yoga. It's not done once and you're forever solved. It's a
Absolutely.
daily, consistent practice of putting something in place that fills those buckets in your
Yeah.
mind, body, and emotions.
Yeah.
If you can keep those buckets sustainably full, at that point, you will start to have an abundance you can overflow into others around you. That's
Mhm.
where that second mountain really kicks off for most.
I love that. And can you, I mean, obviously everybody goes on this journey and they either arrive at that second peak, and like you mentioned, some will not.
Yeah,
And that's also okay. But for those that arrive at that second peak, there's often a significant event or something that happened in that person's life
totally.
that really caused for them to go, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life, is I want to
Mhm.
help bring other people up to this peak.
Sure.
Is there a moment for you that you can say, yeah, this just really changed everything?
Lots of moments, lots of moments. And it's usually reaffirming. I'll tell you a story. I took a lap around the world on a cruise ship. Then I went back and taught, I think, 4 or 5 different times on a cruise ship to a bunch of students and people who wanted to learn different things. And I remember, I think it was the second or third voyage I did. There was this woman who came back, and she just came back from a 3-month around the world trip. And
Mm.
so, if you've ever seen someone who come back from this trip, they're the funniest dressed people in the world because they've
Okay.
got like pants from Thailand and a
Yeah.
hat from Cambodia, and they've got a t-shirt from Africa. Like They just look like one of those goofy world travelers you see in like a cartoon. It's very funny, but it's easily identifiable and it's fun.
Sure.
Like they're so proud of their memories they just collected from around the world. So this lady walked off. She had the hat, she had the funny pants, she had the funny t-shirt. Like she was a recent world traveler. And she was so glowing and smiley and happy and alive. Like she was so alive. And I remember we had dinner with her one night on the ship, and I was like, so, like, how was your trip? And she was like, oh, life changing. And I was like, that's so cool. I was like, tell me about it. Like, well, first off, what was your inspiration to go on this trip?
Mm.
And her whole face changed. It went from like happy and excited to, and I was like, uh-oh, did I bring something up? Like the wrong thing? She's like, no, I've had to share it. And I've finally come to peace with it. And I was like, tell me more. Tell me more. What happened? And she says, I was one of those stages in life where life kept sending me a feather. I was like, a feather? Like the Forrest Gump movie with like the little feather?
Yeah.
She's like, kind of like that. She goes, I call a feather a whisper from the universe. I was like, what? Okay. I was like, what was the whisper? And she's like, life kept telling me to slow down. Life kept telling me to enjoy the moment. Life kept telling me to be more present. Life kept telling me to soak up the small things because someday I'll look back and realize none of them were small. Life kept telling me this message. And I was like, did you listen? She's like, no. I was the CEO of multiple businesses, building multi-million-dollar empires. I was married. I was successful. I had the cars and the houses and the trips and everything you could imagine. I was like, and what happened? She's like, well, I had this weird pain in my side and I went to the doctor and they told me I had cancer. I was like, ooh, that's interesting. And then she's like, I went home that day and found out my husband was cheating on me. I was like, oh shit, this story's getting crazy. Totally. And she's like, and then I just fell into a puddle of depression. Like I couldn't get out of bed. My heart hurt. I was heartbroken and upset and sick. And my businesses start to fall apart and everything. She goes, I realized something. And I said, what? And she goes, life kept sending me a feather and I didn't pay attention. So then life hucked a brick at me. And that brick was me finding out I was sick, me finding out about the infidelity, me finding about this other stuff. And truthfully, that did not completely slow me down. I was still trying to, before the depression, I was waking up at 2 a.m. trying to work. And I was trying to force myself to just keep going and just ignore it. And then eventually she said, if you don't get the brick, life will burn your house to the ground. Wow. And she says, that's what happened. My business went bankrupt. My health was just in the shitter. My relationship was gone. And I didn't know what else to do. And she said, the truth is life continually sent me that message and I was stubborn and wouldn't listen. And she goes, I finally had to listen. Life kept trying to help me, but I was being stubborn. So life finally forced me to learn. So I found myself not knowing what to do. And I sat back and I said, you know what? I need to find myself. And I saw this pamphlet for a trip around the world and I signed up for it, not knowing what was about to happen.
Wow.
And I laughed and I was like, did you find yourself? And she's like, no. But I remembered a lot of things that are important to me. And I said, really? And she's like, yeah. I remembered what it was to just laugh. I remembered what it was to just sit down and read a book. I remembered what it was to sit down with people like you and just have a discussion without worrying about the next thing I needed to be productive with. Absolutely. I remembered what it was to just take a deep breath and enjoy how it felt. She's like, I didn't necessarily find myself, but I remembered what it is to really be alive.
Wow. Yeah. And those are hard decisions to make. And like you said, until the house burns down, the universe just continues to send little warnings, send signals. It reminds me, it's funny that you encountered this woman. I'm sure you've read the book, The 5 a.m. Club. And
I heard about it.
Okay.
Heard about it.
well, there's like 5 different characters in it, and she sounds so much like one of these characters in the book. It's a fantastic read. It's one of my favorite books. And again, it's like the decisions that we make dictate our life, good or bad, right? And so when you can recognize these gifts from the universe to wake up and start making different decisions, it really can change the outcome of your life.
Yeah.
And what a powerful story to hear for her, and how it influenced you to embark on your journey, to bring you into the work you're doing today, which is
Yeah.
pretty amazing.
I made a rule. I made a rule to listen to the whispers of destiny. If
Mm,
I see anything pop up 3 times in my life, I take immediate action on it. Sometimes I feel like I'm running and not knowing why, but I'm like, I will not get hit by a brick. So,
yeah.
I played dodgeball as a kid and I got hit by a ball hard enough, and I was like, no thanks on the brick. I'd rather quickly learn from the whispers of destiny. So, it's one of those things I picked up as just a life lesson from someone else, is
Mhm.
like, hey, if I see things popping up consistently in my life, start moving quickly in that direction to make sure that you don't have to get hit by a brick or have your life burnt to the ground just for you to get the lesson.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, so powerful. So I want to kind of like shift a little bit. We're still going to talk all the things around success, significance, decision making. Um, Part of it is, I think a lot of people in the world struggle with finding their purpose, which sometimes can be in finding their voice.
Yep.
And I grew up in an environment similar to you, where we grew up in a business entrepreneurial family. And my father's been in real estate for 38 years. And you can you can be born into something like that and grow up, and there's this feeling that you not pressure for some. I luckily did not have that from my father. My dad was very supportive of my own dreams and desires and wants, that if it happened to fall into real estate, he was there to support it. And if not, that was totally fine too. But a lot of people grow up in those family environments where there's businesses and there's this obligation or feeling obligated to step into that industry.
Sure.
And even if you want to be in that industry, sometimes you don't always want to be in the family business. And, you've grown up in a different industry around, mentorship and coaching um, and what have you. And you understand some of these complexities. So I would love to hear for you, how did you find your voice and truly feeling like you were honoring yourself, making your own decisions to grow up in a family environment, business environment, and then kind of going out and doing your own thing?
Sure. So I'm going to take this a different direction for just a half second.
Yeah.
There's a book called Family Fortunes,
Okay.
and the average long term, like large wealth with like family wealth, like big, big, big money, it only lasts usually on average 5 generations before it completely disappears.
Mm-hmm.
And what the book talks about is the government's not set up to like keep your family extremely wealthy. The bankers aren't really there to keep your family wealthy. No matter how many good your money manager, your family office, your business partners, none of them are really there to keep your family wealthy. And so the only traditional structure that would actually keep a family wealthy long term was by educating, training, and teaching or developing the wealth managers of the family fortune throughout generations. That was the only proven thing. They've done hundreds of years of research to found that's the thing that keeps families wealthy, financially speaking.
Sure.
And so in looking at that, I stepped back and I looked at some of the investments we do. So we buy multifamilies with some partners. We do some private equity investments. And in these types of investing structures, what you can do in 20 years is pretty good. What you can do in 50 years is pretty amazing. What you can do in 100 years is impressive. But what you can do in 200, 300, or 400 years, if you invest properly, is insane.
Sure.
Insane. But no one lives 500 years.
Yeah.
And so the question becomes, how could you keep the structural process in place that would allow 5, 6, or 7 generations to inherit and grow and nurture wealth that would take care of the entire family and far beyond just what the family needs. And I looked at that and said, that's interesting. That's, again, living for something beyond just yourself, because you might be able to put that into play at this stage of your life, knowing that you'll never get to sit under the shade of the trees that you plant. You won't get to reap the rewards of those investments.
Right.
Those rewards will be reaped in a few generations. And I thought about that. And again, it's when someone hits a stage of life where they think beyond themselves and they're thinking far beyond themselves. One of my wife and I's favorite things we ever discovered, there was something called the Hershey Fund. And it was from the Hershey family, and the Hershey Fund paid for an entire school and orphanage. I was like, that's cool. Someone set up a fund somewhere to make enough continuous dividends and earnings and distributions that it could pay for all these other humans to have a great life now and eternally into the future.
Yeah.
My dad just set something up. He was working with one of the crown princes over in the Middle East, and they partnered together to create a fund that would provide 100 million meals a year through Feed America forever.
Wow.
100 million meals a year forever.
Incredible.
I was like, that's cool.
Yeah.
Like that one, that's a lot of meals. 2, forever? How does that work? And it's like, well, we put the money in a place with a certain distribution and or earnings that will forever cover that amount forever.
Right.
I was like, that's amazing. And it's people thinking far beyond just themselves.
Absolutely.
And so coming back to this, one of the struggles people have when they look at the concept of a family business, or our families are in the same industry or stuff like that, oftentimes it's just a stage of life where we're focused on ourselves. What's my purpose? What's my reason for being here? What will make me happy? What will make me feel fulfilled?
Yeah.
It's a moment of self. There's nothing wrong with it. We all go through it. I certainly went through it. I looked around and I was like, well, crap. I can go much faster if I just do this myself and I don't have to deal with all these other people. Shoot, let's go. I hopped out probably 15 years ago from working with my family, and I was like, I'm out of here. And I zipped off into the future. And it's been a lot of fun with a lot of freedom, and every possible thing I could imagine on my personal bucket list has been checked.
Incredible. Yeah.
I did everything I wanted to do. I've been to the peak of every mountain I could come up with.
Yeah. And I mean, that's part of it, right?
Like thin air, nice view, walk back down. I can tell you, I've done it over and over and over and over. I wanted to live on an island. I wanted to have multiple properties. I wanted to get X amount invested. I wanted to travel. I wanted to marry the woman. I've done it. Yeah. And I can tell you from experience, thin air, nice view, feeling of accomplishment, and walk back down. Yeah. And so part of what we're transitioning with success is, how do we help more people get to the peak quicker? How do we help more people get to the peak quicker? And once we've done that, there's a moment where they might look around and say, hey, I like how this feels, and I want to help other people feel this way.
Totally. And, in order to do that, you've got to make the decision to not live in the what if, because you could still stay in the nest, so to speak. Yeah. And yet inside, you almost feel like you're trapped or you're in prison. You don't feel free because you're constantly in this what if. Yeah. And I think it's a desire that we all have in nature, that even if you don't realize it, we all have a purpose and we all want to wake up feeling like we are living out that purpose. And when you are, that's where, for me personally, I experience true freedom. And it doesn't matter, and you've mentioned this as well, about the cars or the type of plane you fly on and the houses. If you don't feel it inside, nothing else matters. How you wake up and how you go to bed is, and that feeling that you carry is what matters the most. And to be living in a what if scenario for life is not a way to go through life, And so it's amazing to be able to step out, make that decision that you're going to go after it yourself, the way you want to create it.
There's another thing to talk about here that's really important in society right now. So there's a group of people
Mm-hmm.
who hit a stage of life where life is not about them. It's not about what they want, not about what they need, not about what they care about, not about what's important to them. And it happens chemically, it happens biologically, and it's moms. Moms
Mm-hmm.
have this moment of life where when you have a child, your chemistry changes and life is no longer about you, period. And it's built that way so that we don't just leave our child somewhere and walk away. Like, it's biologically built into a mother's nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what's interesting is I'm seeing a massive uptick of women who've been a mom, been a wife of some sort in the relationship, who've raised the kids, whose life has been all about everyone else for this giant period of time, who come to this moment. And I've seen a huge spike in divorces where they look around and they say, I don't know who I am, and I
Right.
want to go find out.
Mm-hmm.
And they go, I'm going to just shed everything off and I'm going to go find me.
Yeah.
And they almost have the opposite experience where it wasn't about achieving all the things they wanted all these years. It was about helping bring up the kids and take care of, their loved ones and take care of, their house and their home and all these bits and pieces. And so if there's women listening, there's a way to engage your partner to cause them to want to help you on that journey, even though I know you've probably asked 1,000 times and dropped 12 million hints that he hasn't picked up yet straight over his head. But there's a way to communicate with that person that'll cause them to want to help you through this process, to want to engage, to want to participate, to want to go on this journey with you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're the partner listening, you have to realize that the person you got into a relationship with is gone. The person you met before having kids, the person you married in the beginning, that version of this person is dead. They're gone. They will be never again. And the real quest is, can you learn to fall head over heels in love with the version of them that's standing in front of you now?
Mm-hmm.
And can you repetitively do that again and again and again? And most couples, truthfully, freak out, get scared, say, this isn't what I signed up for. But I'm going to tell you the truth. After 15 years of studying relationships, I can tell you this truth. It requires the same work no matter who you choose.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have to do the work, whether you like it or not. And life will send you a whisper about what work you need to do. If you don't listen, life will smash you over the head with a brick. And if you still don't listen, life will burn everything to the ground until you pay attention. The work does not change.
Right.
The key is, have you picked a person that you want to do the work with? And if you have, you have to allow that old version of them to be gone forever. And you have to choose to fall in love with who they are now.
Yeah. I love it. Jairek, I'm going to ask you to just bring in some guidance around that, whether it's mom or empty nesters, right? Like the kids have moved out. And I saw that even happen with my mom, where there's two of us, my younger brother. And once my younger brother was self-sufficient and out of the house, moms are left going, well, now what? Right. And what do I do? And it's anybody really at a later stage of life where there's this new beginning.
Yeah.
And what is your guidance to them because I tell my mom, right? I'm like, you are a mother, yes, but that is not who you are. It's a beautiful gift and it's a title that you own and it is a part of you.
Yeah.
But there's so much more that's there because God forbid we were to pass away, you're still here. And there's a reason why you're still here. So for moms in that position or just people having these new beginnings where they could lose a partner, they lose a job, they lose a big title, and they think my life is over.
Yeah.
And it's part of their identity, but it's not who they are. And their purpose is so much bigger than that. What would you give as guidance for that?
So I have a mentor who said one time in my life I confused my occupation for my identification.
Mm,
And oftentimes we do that. When someone
sure.
says, "Who are you?" a lot of times people will introduce ourselves with our titles or what we do or what we're involved with instead of sharing who we really are. And the truth is, most of us have never sat down with a pen and paper and written out who we really are.
Mm,
And so it's work that needs to be done. It's inner work. It's a time when you sit down and answer the question, what's most important to me?
right.
What's most important to me in life right now? What is my reason for being at this stage of my life? Some of us might have done this work a long time ago. We went to a seminar, we read a book, we took a course, and we wrote down our reason for being, our purpose, our mission in life, our vision of what we're all about. And then the truth is, it sat in a drawer somewhere for years, and we still recited it and used it as if it still stands true today. Now, peace
Mhm,
might be true today, but at every major transition of life, where either we change or the environment changes,
right.
which all of us went through an environmental change these last couple of years, whether we liked it or not, it happened. The environment of our day to day life changed. Therefore, you have to go back and update what's most important to you at this stage of life.
Right.
What is your reason for being at this stage of life under these conditions? What are the key outcomes you're looking forward to accomplishing, experiencing, developing, or being a part of? What will happen? What will be different in the world when you accomplish your mission or your vision? What are you not willing to compromise on during this process of accomplishing this vision or mission? Who else will benefit when you succeed? Like, you have to sit down and write the answers to these questions so that you get extremely clear on who you are now and where you're going from this moment. If you're in a
Absolutely.
relationship, your partner should probably do this too. And you should have a their version, my version, and you need to come together and create a third version called our version. Our version is says, hey, you are you and I am me. But when we're together, this is what we choose to live by together.
Yes. I love it. And I think too, part of in everything that you're saying is reminding yourself that you can give yourself permission that things can change and you can also change your mind and your passions and interests can change, but life circumstances change and it's okay. We might not enjoy it, but it doesn't mean that you've done anything wrong and giving yourself permission to step into that.
If you're not enjoying it, it's most likely because you're still stuck in an old vehicle. Give you an example. If it was bright sunny skies, clear, smooth, open highway, we could probably drive a sports car, let's say a Ferrari, and have
Okay.
a really, really good time.
Yeah,
Tops down, hair's flying, we're going hundreds of miles an hour, enjoying the hell out of this highway. Now, if the environment changes and now we're driving off road through a cornfield, we're not going to be having a good time.
totally.
Shit's hitting us in the face, the corn's smacking us, we can't see where we go in, the car is not made for this terrain. Like, my God, that would be a horrible experience.
Yeah.
But some people are so addicted to the vehicle they work so hard to finally call their life that they
Mhm.
don't want to let it go and change which vehicle they're using.
Yeah.
But I'll
It's
tell you, if you just get out of that car that you work so hard for and get into a car that's made for this environment, get into that off-road dune buggy or off-road truck with the big tires. Oh my gosh, drive through a cornfield, one of those, easy McPeasy. Or as
yeah.
my son says, easy peasy lemon squeezy.
Mhm.
Like, it is easy to drive through a cornfield with the right vehicle.
Yeah.
But most of us work so dang hard to get our Ferraris that we're driving through a cornfield in a Ferrari wondering why life is so difficult. It's not. You're just addicted to the wrong thing. Get out of
Mm,
that car, get into the right vehicle for the right time in history, and you'll enjoy it a heck of a lot more.
I love it. And it's about making better decisions, changing, choosing differently to have a better outcome. And again, it like puts you in the driver's seat in owning your life.
Yeah.
Um, I'm so grateful to have this time with you today.
Hold on.
Yeah, tell me.
In the driver's seat, there's
Yes.
only 4 positions you could be in a car.
Yes.
You could be the luggage tied on the back, and that's how you're going through life.
Yeah.
You could be in the back seat. I don't know about you, but those backseat drivers are annoying. People who don't want to take the wheel, but want to just yell out what they think is right or wrong about everything. They're more of a passenger. You could be the navigator, where you have the map and you're helping navigate, but you're not really in control of your own life. Or you could be the person that finally has the guts to get in the driver's seat and start driving your life where you want it to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not mad at you if you're the baggage just hanging on for dear life, tied to the back of the car. Good for you if that's how you want to take on life. Yeah. But I would urge you to get in the front seat, put your hands on the wheel, and start steering your life where you want it to go.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much. I feel like I could talk to you all day about significance and impact. They're 2 things that I am very passionate about myself. And so I'm grateful to spend this time with you. And I know everybody listening will get great value out of today. In wrapping up, I want to ask you one more question, because this is the Freedom CEO podcast, and thinking about being the CEO of your own life, where you get to own your decisions, to dictate your life. What does taking ownership over your own freedom mean to you?
Taking ownership over my freedom.
Yeah.
I think that comes down to learning skills that allow you to add value where in places all over the world. So I stepped back and I said, hey, if I really want to feel free, I need to learn a set of skills and tools that I could land anywhere on earth. Don't speak the language, don't know anybody, have no local context or community. And within a few days, I could add enough value to the community that I'd have a place to live, food to eat, be able to take care of my family, and eventually build the life I want based on the value I add to the community around me. If you learn tools that help you add that kind of value, you will truly be free, because you could go anywhere, anytime, any place, and be able to live the life you want and make a valuable difference in the community.
So powerful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. And thanks for being here today. Really, really appreciate it.
Of course.
Thanks for tuning into the Freedom CEO podcast. If you got value out of today's show, I would love for you to leave a review, as it will help my show reach other people as well. You know what to do. Download this episode, click the like and subscribe button. If you feel like spreading more love, hop over to Instagram and share today's show in your stories. Remember to tag Shane Vidiata and the Freedom CEO. My DMs are always open, so drop me a line. I'd love to connect. Until next time, keep owning your decisions to live a life of freedom. Live a life you love.